The Department of Justice confirming it has received a criminal referral from DNI Tulsi Gabbard regarding bombshells that the Obama administration manufactured the Russia collusion narrative with Donald Trump, both before and after the 2016 election. The DNI told me initial intelligence showed Russia did not try to change the outcome of the election, and the Obama team knew that. The knowledge was pulled from the president's daily briefing due to what they called updated guidance. The next day, top national security officials met with Obama's cabinet, where President Obama asked not if, but how Russia tried to upend the election. Here's then President Obama speaking from the briefing room back in 2016. Watch.
At the beginning of the summer, we're alerted to the possibility that the DNC has been hacked. And I immediately order law enforcement as well as our intelligence teams to find out everything about it. If you started seeing effects on the election, you might want to take this into account. We allowed law enforcement and the intelligence community to do its job without political influence. When we had a consensus around what had happened, we announced it, not through the White House, not through me, but rather through the intelligence communities that had actually carried out these investigations.
Did Clinton lose because of the hacking?
I'm going to let all the political pundits in this town have a long discussion about what happened in the election.
Joining me now is Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Mr. Chairman, always a pleasure. Good to see you. What do you make of watching the deja vu of Barack Obama back in 2016?
Well, I think the former president used the term updated guidance. I think that's a fancy way of saying we changed the story and we did it for political reasons, because that's what it looks like. Never forget, there's 3 key dates here, Maria. December 9th is when they have this meeting in the White House. Clapper, Brennan, McCabe, Comey, the president, they're all there, and they say, okay, we're not going to accept the intelligence community assessment. We're going to change that. And President Obama was just alluding to that. And then you have the date January 3rd. A few weeks later, Chuck Schumer goes on one of the Sunday shows and says, talking about then President-elect Trump, he says, if you mess with the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. And then 3 days later, January 6th, they all go up to Trump Tower to give President Trump what he believes is his incoming defensive briefing as the new, as the president-elect. He thinks he's getting the normal defensive briefing. Instead, it's a setup. They go up there, talk to him about this, and then Comey tells him about the dossier that they already know is baloney. They know it's not true, came from the Clinton campaign and everything else. But they brief him on it so that when that information gets leaked, it has added credibility, because now it was so important that the FBI talked to the president-elect. The press has got to report it, and off and running goes the Russia collusion false narrative for the next 2 years. It was all to undermine President Trump and his presidency. And God bless Tulsi for sending this to the DOJ. I hope they dig into this. I mean, I hope that they go after this, because I think this is what it was, a conspiracy to undermine the first term of President Trump.
Yeah, but look, at the time, the mainstream media went with it, hook, line, and sinker, and of course, much of the media blasted it across the world. Not here, of course. We saw through it right away and reported accordingly. Yeah. But, we've been calling for accountability now since then. It's almost 10 years, Congressman. So it now falls to AG Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel on whether or not anything will actually be done about it. What are the odds?
Yeah. Well, I think they are digging into this, and I think that the facts are strong. Here's some other evidence I think is important. This was a setup when they went up there on January 6th to Trump Tower and gave President Trump this briefing. Yeah. It was a setup because a few weeks later they did the same thing to Michael Flynn, and Jim Comey then bragged about it. He said, when we went to the White House, he said we should have called the White House counsel. We should have let him know. We should have talked about this. He should have had a lawyer. All this should have been happening, but they just said, no, we thought it was a new administration. We could get in, we could get out, we could ask him questions. And there's even email correspondence amongst FBI agents from that time with General Flynn where they say, what's our goal? Are we trying to get him to lie? What's our objective here? They were setting up Michael Flynn just like they tried to set up the President of the United States. So this is what this whole operation was about. And again, let's hope that they dig into this and get all this information out there. And if they can prove that there's a crime, I hope they move forward with it.
Now, is this why they raided Mar-a-Lago in 2022? Because they wanted these documents that were sure to be declassified?
I don't know. I do think when you go back to this, what we're talking about in 2016, 2017, it's about a 30-day time period between that December 9th meeting, 2016, and when they go up to, up to Trump Tower and do this briefing. I do think this is when the weaponization of government really began. This is when they said, forget the election. We're going to try to undermine his presidency now.
Wow.
It was bad enough what they tried to do, spying on his campaign during the 2016 campaign. But now they're trying to undermine him after he's already won. So I do think that's when it all began.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, it's interesting because the bulk of these declassified documents reveal that, number one, they knew that the dossier was fake. They knew it was made up. And also they revealed that the FBI did not really investigate former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for her private email server. Right? So both of those things were happening at the same time, and it was during a contest between the two players, Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley said under Comey's leadership, the FBI failed to perform fundamental investigative work and left key pieces of evidence on the cutting room floor. So is that the gist of this 10 years later, that they tried to take down Trump by making up and manufacturing this story that was not true? They knew it wasn't true, but they pushed it through and let it go viral across the world, while at the same time completely ignoring her use of a private server who she kept in her house, and that was quite dangerous. Tell us why.
Yeah, they spied on an opposing party's presidential campaign. Yeah. And the evidence they used to get the warrant to spy on them was the Clinton campaign hired the law firm Perkins Coie, who hired Fusion GPS, a Democrat public relations firm, who hired a foreigner, Christopher Steele, who put together the garbage that became the dossier. And then they used that dossier to go spy on the other party's campaign. Meanwhile, they didn't go after Hillary Clinton for her emails and everything else she did from the server. That's what they did. And then when that didn't work, they said, oh, now we're going to undermine his presidency by concocting this story, going up to Trump Tower, giving him the defensive briefing that he's supposed to get. President Trump thinks that's what's happening, when in fact it's a setup, just like they set Michael Flynn up 3 weeks later. That's what this group did. And again, Tulsi now is highlighting the underlying intelligence and said there was nothing there. But the meeting in Obama's office, they all decided to change that. No. We're not going to send out that initial intelligence community assessment. We're going to put together a new one that will allow us to do what I just described.
Well, look, Hillary Clinton was ultimately accused of mishandling highly classified information while using a private email server set up in her home. In 2016, the FBI suggested to the DOJ that she should not face prosecution ahead of the presidential election. So there, I guess they found religion on not getting involved in a presidential election. But look, at the end of the day, this has been an exhausting 10 years because of all of these shenanigans, Congressman. You know that. You've been living it. So have I, and the audience as well. So how is anybody supposed to trust that there's actual, real, work going on and honest work, and it's not all politics? I mean, you have to remove the people, don't you? Who should be getting fired? Putting indictments and prosecutions aside, who needs to get fired and leave Congress for all of these lies?
Well, I do think that I've said this multiple times. I do think it's night and day compared to the kind of work you're seeing from Attorney General Bondi, Todd Blanche, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino at the Justice Department, compared to Merrick Garland and Christopher Wray. But this whole pattern that we've seen of going after President Trump, they spied on his campaign, then they tried to undermine his presidency with what I just described. Then it was the whole Mueller investigation for 2 years. Then in the 2020 election, it was the 51 former intel officials, Clapper, Brennan, signing this crazy letter saying it was a Russian information operation when they had the Hunter Biden laptop. They knew it was real. And then once that happens, when he's running again in 24, it's Alvin Bragg, Fonnie Willis, Jack Smith, and all the things they did there. It has never stopped. But where it started is what Tulsi is now bringing forward, stuff we suspected. We had some of the evidence, but she has even more. And that's why we need to go back there and dig into this, because this is where it all began. Yeah, no, I understand. These are the two biggest scandals that anybody has ever seen. The first one being Russia collusion and a sitting president trying to stop an incoming president, Obama trying to stop Trump, and then the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental capacity and the use of the auto pen. Who the heck was running the country in the last 4 years? So now we hear from the former first son, Hunter Biden, returning to the limelight over the weekend in this new 3-hour interview. Here's one more of the bizarre takes on what he is criticizing of President Trump's immigration policy. Watch this.
That people are really upset about illegal immigration. You. How do you think your hotel room gets cleaned? How do you think you got food on your table? Who do you think washes your dishes? If I became president, I would pick up the phone and call the president of El Salvador and say, you either send them back or I'm going to invade.
Well, I mean, it's hard to understand with all those F-bombs in there, Congressman, but your reaction to Hunter Biden now coming out and cursing everybody out.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to become president. I think he said if I become president, I was going to do something. I don't know that that's likely to happen in this country, and thank goodness for that. No, I mean, this is the left talking. He's part of the left. I mean, what President Trump is doing is exactly what he campaigned on. And the American people appreciate it. We now have a secure border, which we didn't have before. The American people appreciate President Trump, maybe more than any elected official in my lifetime, does what he said he was going to do, does exactly what the American people elected him to do. He said he was going to secure the border. He did. He said he was going to have NATO countries kick in more for defense. They are. He said Iran wasn't going to get a nuclear weapon. That operation was so successful there. And on. He said he was going to cut taxes. We did that. I mean, on and on it goes. So I appreciate that. I think the American people do. What they don't appreciate is Hunter Biden and some of the things his family did, his dad did, while he was president.
Yeah. Oh, well, it certainly has been a very successful 6 months. Congrats to you and your colleagues, and certainly President Trump is riding a high on all of this. But Hunter Biden's cursing everybody out, I guess. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thank you. Jim Jordan is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. We'll be right back.